Hello, I'm Dr. Jeffries. I'm the pastor of the Philadelphia Church of Universal Brotherhood, and this is Mindful Monday. Welcome, and I want to get started with a reminder. First of all, I want you to know that the best is yet to come. It's part of our makeup here at Philadelphia Church to believe that the best is yet to come. And that's for more than one reason. Well, one reason is tomorrow will be better than today if we're alive. That's number one. Isn't that right? But another reason is that we believe. I said, we believe that every day with Jesus is sweeter than the day before. We believe that with all our hearts and soul. So that's another reason. But let me drop one more on you right now. We stand on the promises of God like this one. I will walk before you and move the mountains out of your way. What a promise. I will walk before you and make the crooked places straight. That's Isaiah 42:5. Now, that's reason to know that the best is yet to come because the Lord is walking before you. He's going ahead of you, and He's promised to make the crooked places straight. In other words, He's going through with you through that crisis, through that problem, through that dilemma. He's going to be with you. Let's get into this a little bit. I will go before you and level the uneven places. I will shatter the bronze doors and cut the iron bars in two. That's the Holman Standard Bible version of that text. And I love it because it gives me hope, and I need hope. I love it because it's a promise of God that I can stand on. I will go before you and make the rough places smooth. I will go before you and make the crooked places straight. Those are promises that I can stand on. God's promises to open doors that need to be opened and no man can shut. And he makes a promise that he will shut the doors that need to be shut and no man can open. I will go before you. When he goes before you, you're in good shape. He says, I will break down the gates of bronze and cut those bars of iron. The New Living Translation has another translation, another way of saying it that gives me hope, if you will. It says, this is what the Lord says. I love texts that start out like that. This is what the Lord says. I will go before you, Cyrus, and I will level those places that need to be level. He told Cyrus that, and Cyrus stood on that promise, and he went forward and did what the Lord instructed him to do. Just like you and I will smash down the gates of bronze and cut through those iron bars. That's what he told Cyrus. Now, Cyrus was a messenger of God. He was a great man. He wasn't a Christian, he wasn't a Jew, but he was a man that God used. And the English Standard Version of that same text is what I Cyrus took in, and he believed you and I can take this in and stand on this promise. I'll go before you and level the exalted places. Sometimes things get high up, or things are too high, or things are out of your reach. The Lord is saying, "Here, I'm going to bring them down. I'm going to level those exalted places, those problems that seem like they're too much for you." He's saying He will level those places, and that you will have an even playing ground, right? An even grounds for He'll level it off, and make you viable, make you competitive, right? He's Because He went before you and prepared the way. Because God promises go before you, you don't need to be dismayed. You don't have to worry or be disquieted. You can hope in God. He is your hope, and He's your help in ages past and your hope for years to come. That's one psalmist put it that way. One songwriter put it this way. So even when life starts coming at you, when it or life, they like to say this today, when life comes for you, okay, you can retire into your place of peace and power. Go to that place within you where there is that sound mind, and you can be at one with God. That's what the atonement is all about. At one meant atonement, at one with God. There's a place of quiet rest. This is another hymnist that put it this way: there is a place of quiet rest near to the heart of God, a place where sin cannot molest, near to the heart of God. O Jesus, blessed Redeemer, sent from the heart of God, hold me who waits before thee, near to the heart of God. That actually says, hold us who wait before you. But I personalize everything. I suggest you do the same thing. Make it personal and get into it. Let God perform in your behalf, all right? Now, Dr. A. G.A. Smith, he's a doctor of theology. He's a noted theologian. He says that Cyrus was a tool in the hand of God. Cyrus was a tool in the hands of God. And now that brings hope and confidence to me. And if you make yourself, like I'm making myself, a tool in the hand of God, you can pass that on to your neighbor. That because when you're a tool in the hand of God, uh, that brings confidence. It brings hope. And once you have that, then you can pass that on to your family members, number one. Then you can pass it on to your neighbors and your co-worker and your friends. They'll see it and they'll want to emulate you. They'll want to use what you're using for that confidence and for that forward thrust, that upward mobility that you exhibit in life. Now, G.A. Smith says that um, Cyrus was a tool in the hand of God. He says this. I looked it up. He said Cyrus is neither he wasn't chosen for his character, nor did he, nor does it say so in Isaiah 45. I want you to read Isaiah 45 verses 1 through 5 when you get a chance. But he said that this was that Cyrus was simply there, and he was there and because God chose him, right? And he wasn't a Christian or he wasn't a Jew, but God chose him, and he used him because he was a tool. And you and I should make ourselves a tool to God. Uh, how do you make yourself a tool? By making yourself available, by listening to him, by praying to him, and let him know that you are submitting to him. I like this is what Dr. Smith says. Cyrus is chosen. He wasn't chosen for his character. He was there simply because he wanted to do God's will, and God chose him. What he was endowed with was force and push and swiftness, and he had an irresistible nature about him. In short, he is not a character, but he's a tool. Although he was charismatic, he was a very charismatic guy. He had a great personality as well, but he wasn't used by God for that. He was used by God because God chose him, because he made himself available to God, and he was obedient. Okay. Dr. G.A. Smith, he says this: Cyrus was used by God because he um, was available. He was available. Cyrus was willing to listen to God. He was obedient to God. Cyrus was ready and willing to do God's will, just like you and I. We should be tools in the hands of God. We should be willing to listen to the voice of God and do God's will. And make that a priority this week. We should be obedient to God and to what he says, and to follow his promptings and his instructions. Now, we know that his instructions are found in his word. His word is the Bible. But we should also make ourselves available to listen to the voice of God in meditation. We should be willing and ready to serve. Um, I think I read this to you before. It says, "Thus says Yahweh to his anointed." This is the another version. It says, "Thus says Yahweh to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have held, to subdue nations, and before him, and to strip kings of their armor, to open the doors before him." Why is he saying this? Well, we should all know the story, but the story is that Cyrus is the guy that went under the gates at that feast where Belshazzar's feast, where he was drinking wine and having a great party and an orgy with God's holy utensils and God's holy cups. And Cyrus went underneath the gate and he opened. It was a fortress. I mean, Nebuchadnezzar had built a fortress there, and Cyrus went against Nebuchadnezzar went against God's will. Cyrus went underneath the gates, opened it up, and he conquered the king that thought he could never be conquered. Why? Because God used him. He made himself available, and God used him for what he needed to get done. Just like he will use you and I when we submit to him. Man must go. Each man is accomplishing a journey. He's going through a process. You and I are going through a process. The only question is, how may we go? We're either going with God, or we're going without him. Whether we go with him or without him, we're going to find crooked places. I suggest you team up with him. I suggest you submit to him. I suggest you keep tuning in to Mindful Monday, where we give you the right advice. I want to leave a promise with you. I will go before thee. That is the promise that I want to leave with you this week. And I want you to be mindful of that. The text is also a promise. I will go before thee. God does not say where he's going to straighten out the path or when he's going to straighten out the path. But the great thing for us to believe is that there is a special promise for us and to wait with a devout hope. What did I say? A devout hope, for it is a fulfillment. He who waits for God is not dis he's not misspending his time. He's not wasting his time. He's not misspending his time. Such waiting is true living, and it carries true speed. Okay. Wait, I say, on the Lord, and be of good courage. We all know that text is found in the Bible. The text is also a plan. I will go before you. The key word is before. I will find the plan. Okay. The plan is God is going before us. That I find, and it is the word before that I find difficulty that men have in accepting this promise. Let me say that again. The text is also a plan. It is the word before that I find the plan. And it is that word before that I find the difficulty on the human side. God does not say, I will go alongside you. God didn't say, I'm going to go step by step with you. God said, I will go before you. Sometimes it may be a long way before you and you can't see it. Sometimes it'll be a short way and you can see him. But whether you see him or not, take his word and stand on the promise. Let's devout, let's have a devout hope, and let's take God at his word and stand on his promise. You can't go wrong when you stand on the promises of God. The place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Why is it holy? That's what God told Moses the first time he was talking to him through that burning bush. He says, take your shoes off because the place where you're standing is holy ground. The expression of every man who knows what it is to have God going before him should understand that where you are standing is holy ground. Keep that in your mind this week as you go forward, that God goes before you. Therefore, you can have confidence, you can have hope, you can know that you are on the right track and your life is going to be victorious. Now, I'm signing off. I'm looking for you next week, same time, same place. I want you to visit with us on Facebook and also Zoom and YouTube, because we are going to have services, of course, every Saturday at 11:30. You can get in touch with us. The information will be on the screen below. I want you to keep your head up. Know that the Lord is going before you, and I shall see you same time next week. God bless you and have a great week.